Cancer. Welcome to Pandora Astrology's monthly horoscope for November of 2021. Well, this month we're having the final pass of a transit that's been happening all year and that has actually been helping us behind the scenes in ways so subtle that you've probably not even noticed it. And that would be Saturn sextile Chiron. Chiron is presently traveling through your 10th house. Chiron, the wounded healer, brings healing and mending wherever he goes. Saturn, meanwhile, has been traveling along through your 8th house. And Saturn brings discipline and structure wherever it goes and presses you to employ those things wherever it goes. Now, Saturn's passage along a house usually will last about 2.5 years. And in moving through your 8th house, Saturn has been reminding you that you owe things to people and entities, and that some of them probably owe you too. So this is a house that has a lot to do with karma. It is a house of death and rebirth, of debt and owing, and sharing too. So Saturn has been testing you and pressuring you to show the utmost integrity in all relationships where you have financial entanglements. And it's on like a 2.5-year journey through that house. As to where exactly it is in that journey, I'd have to see your personal specific natal chart in order to tell you that. But I could do so in a reading, and Julia could too. Chiron, meanwhile, is on about a 7-year journey along through your 10th house of career, where it has been mending and healing, possibly by bringing up old wounding relative to father or authority figures in general, and your own experience of authority, whether you are being respected. These are opportunities for healing and mending in this utmostly important arena of life. And Saturn and Chiron this year have been helping and assisting each other. So the harder you work on your debt, the more it helps your reputation that Chiron is busily working on mending, and the better a job you do at mending your reputation, the more help you find that you get with clearing debt. So these two have been super helpful, but it's been so backgroundy, you might not have been taking advantage of it. This month is your last chance to do so, and I thought I'd let you know. Well, hey, Julia, I know you've got some news for the Cancers of the world about Mercury and Mars and Venus. What is that good stuff?
Yes, I do, Jamie. Well, hey there, Cancer. I'll start with Mercury. Wherever we have Mercury that month is where we expend the most of our mental energy, and it's also the planet of communication. It finished up a retrograde cycle last month, which is great because we don't deal with any of the miscommunications and technical snafus that we were dealing with last month, this month. Mercury's moving direct and fast, and it begins the month in your 4th house of family home. So for the first 5 days of the month, you might find that you're spending a lot of time thinking about your housing situation. How can you make your home more satisfying, or should you move into the next home? This can also be a time of increased communication with your family members. Then on November 5th, Mercury moves into your 5th house. This is the house of creativity, fun, and games, and also children too. So if you do have any children, Cancer, then this can be a time period of a lot of just more communication with them in general. It might just kind of pick up the tempo of how you guys communicate together. Mercury is also a planet that loves to play games. It's known as the archetype of the trickster, and games are also ruled by the 5th house. So you might be also drawn to doing a lot more either mental games or video games, games that might involve strategy or games that involve wordplay too. It can also be a wonderful transit for anyone doing creative writing. Now, Mars, the planet of action and activity, is also in the 5th house too, and it's going to be there all month. So with Mars in the 5th, wherever we have Mars is where we're driven, but also where we could run into conflict. And again, if you do have any children, this might be also a time of not just increased communication, but maybe even more conflict, a little more arguments than usual. Mars in the 5th can also really be driven to want to go out and have fun. And if you have a lot of responsibilities, like pretty much everyone does with a job or with kids or with family, you could feel really stir crazy because you just want to go out and have a good time, but just kind of feel held back. Now, Venus, the planet of art, beauty, and relationships, begins the month in your 6th house. And when Venus is in the sixth represents our day-to-day work, more like, the day-to-day operations of your job. So with Venus in the 6th, it's a wonderful time for getting along well with the people you work with, whether those are clients, customers, your boss, for example. It can also be a time where people get crushes in the workplace too. Then after November 5th, Venus moves into your 7th house, where it's going to spend the rest of the month. And Venus loves to be in this house. It could be a really wonderful time for getting along well with your partner, because the 7th house represents all types of partnerships, romantic and business. And it's a wonderful transit for all the single Cancers to get out there and meet somebody new.
And that's so nice. Well, Cancer, there are a couple of moons I want to tell you about. And I think the moon is so important for you as a Cancerian because the moon is your ruling planet. And so knowing what the moon is up to is pretty important to do. And this month, especially because there's an eclipse coming. But let me tell you about the new moon first. That one's not an eclipse. So the new moon is happening November 4. It's happening in Scorpio. And when the moon is in Scorpio, it can be too much of a good thing in the sense that the moon is a watery planet and Scorpio is also watery. It's a water sign. And you'd think that, the moon, which is intuitive and emotional, would be even more so in Scorpio. And you'd be right, but it's not always a good thing. Sometimes it can take you down a spiral of paranoia, and you can find yourself, deep in a rabbit hole that you kind of wish that you hadn't gone down. So this particular one is happening in the 5th house, which is the house of children, as Julia was explaining. It's also a house of fun and entertainment and trips. I think I would go so far as to say, don't plan a trip for fun during this new moon, because it might just turn out to be an emotional experience that's way more than you bargained for, leading to some arguments. And I say arguments because Uranus is conveniently placed opposite this new moon, but I think Uranus actually has some help to bring. Taurus is a stabilizing sign. It's a really great counterpoint to Scorpio. And then Uranus likes to bring up new ideas that can break into the thought frames that you've gotten involved in. So if you've been involved in a downward spiral of paranoia or fear or depression during this moon, you may find yourself face to face with somebody who can talk you out of it, who can present ideas that are so different, they startle you out of that downward spiral. And that can be a really good thing. Or you could play that role for somebody else. But that's really the reason why we're calling this moon stabilized paranoia through disruption. And the second moon, I think, is more interesting because it involves an eclipse. This moon is a full moon in Taurus, which falls in your 11th house, opposite the sun in your 5th house. And the full moon actually in Taurus is a wonderful thing because the moon loves to be in the sign Taurus. That stabilizes it right there. But this is an eclipse, and an eclipse is always a time when things get stirred up. And with a lunar eclipse, it's emotions that get stirred up. You will have a subjective experience of being brought face to face with your shadow. And I say subjective on purpose because this eclipse falls in your 11th house, which is the house of community. So you might have an experience when you are out in community near this full moon that is a deeply emotionally stirring experience in which leaves you feeling like you've just really impacted other people's experience of you. And that might be true, or it might be that it all went inside, it all happened inside of yourself, and that you don't actually have to worry about how you look to other people. You may find yourself soothing some friends as well during this eclipse. So we're calling this eclipse, it doesn't matter if you're right, and there's a specific reason for that. This eclipse plays off of the nodal axis, as all eclipses do. This particular nodal axis features Sagittarius and Gemini. The nodes have been traveling through these signs for about 18 months. They're finishing up their sojourn through Sagittarius and Gemini right now. And The South Node has been pressing us to let go of old cherished beliefs that have been holding us back, possibly in ways we're completely unaware of. While the North Node in Gemini has been pressing us to take on and embrace new ways of thinking things through more rationally, more logically, and questioning those beliefs. So this moon is likely to bring up arguments between people with beliefs that are very deeply entrenched. And you can bring all the logic that you could possibly muster, and you may not change the other person's mind. That can quite possibly happen. It may be that they're trying to change your mind and they don't succeed either. In which case, at some point, you just have to let go and just try not to have the argument in public. And definitely don't let your ego get into the matter, because that will only make things worse. And you can find out a lot more about those eclipses and also the Saturn sextile Chiron thing in our November 2021 news playlist on our Pandora Astrology YouTube channel. So the last thing I want to tell you about is the seasonal change that's coming. We have been traveling along through the season of Scorpio. The sun is going to move out into Sagittarius around the 21st, 22nd, which is generally when it does that. And this is a whole new season. It's a season of light, a season of warmth. It's the season of the light at the end of the dark Scorpio tunnel. It's a time when we gather around the tribal fire. We tell stories, we crack jokes. We talk about culture and history, and we relate with people from different backgrounds, and we expand ourselves and grow. So during this season, because the sun is moving into your 6th house, it's a great time to shed the light of your warm attention on people in your workplace and on the tasks that you do there and how you organize things. Bring your attention to that, bring that into the light of your consciousness, and good things will happen on the job for you this month. Well, Cancer, hope you enjoyed that horoscope. And if this was the horoscope for your sun sign, definitely check out the horoscope for your rising sign and vice versa. You can find more good stuff like this on our website, pandoraastrology.com. You can find our services page and get readings with us, or find the classes page and take a class. And you'll always find the news of the month on our monthly forecast page. And until next time, we'll see you around the cosmos. Bye-bye.
Bye.